what can governments do to push back against the lure of radical groups? We'll hear from some experts. Will there be peace in Africa's youngest nation? Highlights from Voice of America's South Sudan town hall discussion. And a red carpet like no other. Glamorous fashion from this year's Met Ball. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. America's top diplomat, Secretary of State John Kerry, held talks with top government officials in Djibouti on Wednesday. He met with President Ismail Omar Guelleh and Foreign Minister Mahmoud Ali Yusuf and thanked them for their assistance to hundreds of Americans who sought refuge from the violence in Yemen. Well, later, Secretary Kerry toured the Salman Mosque and held talks with a group of young Djiboutian leaders. He also visited the U.S. military base Camp Lemonnier, an important part of the American military presence in the Middle East. On Tuesday, Kerry became the first top-ranking U.S. diplomat to visit Somalia. Kerry spoke with reporters in Mogadishu following a meeting with President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, saying the U.S. wants to re-establish diplomatic relations with Somalia.
The United States will begin the process of establishing the premises for a diplomatic mission in Mogadishu. And while we do not yet have a fixed timeline for reopening the embassy, we are immediately beginning the process of upgrading our diplomatic representation. And I look forward, as does the President, to the day when both the United States and Somalia have full-fledged missions in each other's capital city again.
Well, the U.S. Secretary of State heads to Saudi Arabia later Wednesday, and later in the week he travels to France for talks on regional security and ceremonies marking the end of World War II in Europe. Well, for more on Secretary Kerry's visit to East Africa, VOA East Africa correspondent Gabe Josler joins us on the phone from Nairobi, Kenya. Hello, Gabe. Now, the Secretary's... Yes, let's start with Secretary Kerry's visit to Djibouti. How significant is that?
Well, Djibouti has been a particularly strong partner to the United States in its counterterrorism efforts. You know, for one thing, the U.S. maintains a pretty sizable military base in Djibouti, Camp Lemonnier, where there are about 3,000 U.S. servicemen. It's also the base for a lot of U.S. drones, the same drones that patrol the skies over Somalia. So, yeah, it's quite significant and quite a crucial partner in the eyes of the United States.
Yes, and now his visits to Kenya and Somalia really tackled issues that are so interconnected. Let's talk about the security situation in Kenya in relation to the refugee camp Dadaab. Why was that important?
That's right. I mean, Secretary Kerry's visit to Kenya, a lot of his talks with the government focused on the refugee situation. He pledged more American money to support the UN's refugee operations in Dadaab, and also urged the Kenyan government not to forcibly remove some 350,000 Somalis who are living there. So that was a pretty strong message that came from the U.S. It seems that the Kenyan government has heeded that call as well. They sort of backed away from their initial very strong forcible orders against that population. And as you mentioned, these two issues of security and the refugee situation are tightly linked. So I think the U.S., which has been pressing security matters during this trip, also sees that as another advantage.
Now, very quickly on the Somalia issue, it looks like Somalia is almost back to the fold in international relations.
Yes, this is a high-profile visit for Somalia, but at the same time, when John Kerry went there, he only could stay at the airport. He's behind incredibly tight security because Mogadishu is a volatile place. He said during his comments that he'd like to come back and walk the streets of downtown Mogadishu someday, but they're not quite there yet.
Well, Geb, thank you very much. That's VOA East Africa correspondent Geb Josler reporting live from Nairobi, Kenya. Well, worldwide, Islamist terrorism is on the rise, including in Western societies, as governments fight to curb the spread of radical groups and their influence on mainstream Muslim communities. Analysts say militant groups are offering an attractive alternative, especially to disgruntled young men. VOA's Zlatka Hoke has our report.
The French parliament on Tuesday voted overwhelmingly in favor of a controversial bill that would legalize broad surveillance of terror suspects in France.
Je veux d'abord me féliciter de ce résultat très large.
I want to say first that I am pleased with this large result, this very large majority in favor of the bill on intelligence. It's a bill that preserves our basic liberties, a bill that is a framework for the activities of our intelligence services, but which gives them additional means so they can be as efficient as possible in the face of the terrorist threat, but also against serious crime and industrial espionage.
Ou encore face à l'espionnage économique.
But while lawmakers from diverse French parties approved the legislation, many others questioned whether it would have a significant effect in fighting terrorism. Analysts say radical groups are an attractive alternative for young Muslims unhappy with their official leaders.
And of course, the main reason that was betrayed to all people throughout the region is the West that's trying to control and destroy the Arab and the Muslim nations, and Israel in the region, so this is the ultimate enemy. And that's always being in the media, in the school, in every social gathering, and charge people with a lot of ideas, and here comes all of these radical political parties and radical groups giving you an answer. Well, we are not these governments. They cannot take an action. We take an action instead, and your future is with us.
International air raids have curbed territorial advances of the heavily armed Islamic State group in Iraq and Syria in recent months. But an older terrorist group, Al-Qaeda, has made gains. That group lost a lot of its power after its top leaders were captured or killed, and its financial network was disrupted. But analysts say Al-Qaeda has recovered and made gains in recent months with financial support from some Arab states.
And today it seems like Al-Qaeda is very much back in business in both Syria and Yemen in terms of getting sponsorship from certain Gulf Arab states. One could see, for example, quite openly that countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar are sponsoring an umbrella organization that the Nusra Front, which is Al-Qaeda's affiliate in Syria, is a part of.
Analysts say inflicting military defeats on insurgents and dismantling terrorist cells are temporary measures. Many say Islamist radicalism can be fought more successfully by strengthening moderate Muslim communities and by offering better choices to young Muslims worldwide. Zlatica Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
Well, in Yemen, clashes between Houthi fighters and militias loyal to exiled President Rabu Mansour Hadi is intensifying. Dozens of Yemeni families have fled their homes in the southern port city of Aden since Tuesday, headed for safer areas of the city. An aid worker in the region says the number of displaced families seeking safety is rising. Houthi rebels hold large swathes of Yemen, having advanced hundreds of kilometers across the country from their northern stronghold in recent months, and are now fighting for control of Aden. Well, police in southern Thailand have found 2 more camps believed to have held human trafficking victims, one containing a buried skeleton. This news comes just days after officials announced arrests in connection with the grisly discovery of 26 bodies in a mass grave at another location. Officials suspect as many as 400 mostly ethnic Rohingya from Myanmar were being held for ransom at the remote camp near the Malaysian border. Steve Sanford tells us more.
In southern Thailand, well-established trafficking routes have long been used to transport human cargo. When the grim discovery of a mass grave was unearthed last week, many observers were not surprised. Many groups have documented the extensive networks that traffic and extort people from Myanmar and Bangladesh who are seeking a better life. Human Rights Watch's Phil Robertson says it is a thriving trade.
These camps are in fact surrounded by local officials and communities taking money from the traffickers. And at more senior levels, say at the provincial level, we have officials looking the other way. People know what's going on. The issue is that they're not doing anything about it, or they're actually in cahoots with these traffickers.
In response to rampant corruption, desperate civilians have formed militia patrols to drive the traffickers away from their villages, often just kilometers away from tourist beaches. With government permission, these squads have had some success in rescuing small groups of mostly Rohingya migrants, but their experiences show the enormous challenges against the deep-rooted gangs, says militia leader Churchai Papatam Yutanon.
We can't make trafficking stop, but at least slow them down. It's not like the past. In the past, the broker moved 40 or 50 Rohingya each time, but now they break to smaller groups, like 10 or 20 each time. It makes it more difficult for us to catch them. They move away from us.
Rescued victims tell stories of long waits aboard vessels off the coast of Thailand, with traffickers timing the trip ashore to evade detection. At this shelter near the popular tourist destination Phuket, 11-year-old Rohingya boy Nay Zombing tells a familiar tale.
I suffered on the boat for a month before we arrived in the mountains. When I was on the boat, the broker gave me a fish in a can. I couldn't eat it. I wanted to vomit. I saw 2 men shot by the brokers. I saw another man dead on the boat.
Last year, U.S. authorities downgraded Thailand to the lowest level for its efforts in combating human trafficking. But the latest finds indicates the problem could be even worse than officials feared. Steve Sanford reporting for VOA from Khao Lak, Thailand.
Well, now staying in Thailand, a historic bust of ivory from Kenya was recently seized. Ivory poaching remains a huge problem in Africa and Asia. VOA's Caroline Turner reports.
Thailand seized 3 tons of ivory that had been shipped from Kenya in the second biggest bust in the country's history. The 511 elephant tusks bound for Laos and worth $6 million were seized on April 25th upon arrival at a major port in Chonburi province in eastern Thailand. Authorities say the seizure came after custom officials in Laos and Thailand were tipped off and tracked the containers from Kenya. The ivory, hidden in sacks among tea leaves, was shipped out of Kenya in March and went through ports in Sri Lanka, Malaysia, and Singapore before arriving in Thailand. The bust came 1 week after Thai customs officials seized 4 tons of tusks in what officials say was the nation's biggest seizure.
We have always been strict. I think the news of 2 consecutive busts is big and worldwide. The transnational crime networks must realize it's getting increasingly difficult to send their shipments past Thailand, but I think they will try to come up with more complicated means, so we've already prepared measures to combat this.
Poachers have killed tens of thousands of African elephants for their tusks in recent years to meet high demand for ivory in Asia. Thailand is one of the top destinations for African ivory smuggling in Asia, and the nation could face international sanctions if it doesn't show progress in combating the problem. Carolyn Turner, VOA News.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. Check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, how a mobile phone-based system might be the solution in the fight against counterfeit drugs. Stay with us.
I am Sheikh Asali, host and senior editor of VOA's international call-in talk show, Straight Talk Africa.
Today we'll examine the tobacco industry.
We pretty much touch on anything that you can think of. Politics, health issues, human rights issues, you name it, we talk about it. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent. A very, very rare and unique opportunity to interact with their leaders.
Music is an essential part of who I am, who my family is, and where I come from. Our show that is jazz-focused is called Beyond Category, and we take a very broad concept of what jazz is, but we look at about bringing in the greatest jazz artists working to talk about their music and to hear them play.
Well, peace in South Sudan remains elusive nearly 4 years after gaining independence. The Sudan People's Liberation Movement that led the way for independence in July 2011 is now divided and fighting for power. Voice of America held a town hall meeting late last week to discuss how to move the country forward. Here's Africa 54's Esther Ewart.
Fighting erupted in the capital Juba in December 2013 before it quickly began spreading across the country after President Salva Kiir accused his former Vice President Riek Machar of an attempted coup. Since then, thousands of people have been killed. The political conflict has caused massive displacement and a severe food shortage. As fighting continued, the East Africa Regional Body Intergovernmental Authority on Development began mediating peace between the warring factions. On several occasions, the two sides reached an agreement, but the pact soon collapsed and thousands were killed in the capital, Juba. Among the participants in the town hall meeting was South Sudan's ambassador to the United States, Garang Ding Akwong. Akwong dismissed reports that thousands were killed in Juba.
I was in Juba, and even during the conflict, I went to Bor, I went to Malakal, I went to Bentiu. I have seen everything. I speak from the experience. Yes, I can say that we admit that there was a killing in Juba, but the extent to which that people say thousands of people were killed, I'm not sure of that, because I was in Juba myself. And there are no reports, even from the NGOs, who buried those who were killed.
With thousands of South Sudanese fleeing to neighboring countries of Sudan, Kenya, Ethiopia and Uganda, hopes of a stable South Sudan are quickly fading, and many are hoping the East Africa Regional Bloc, IGAD, will step up its efforts to bring the warring sides to a lasting solution. Former U.S. Ambassador to South Sudan, Susan Page, was also a participant in the town hall meeting, and she expressed her concerns over the deadlocked conflict.
This war has really done a lot of damage, and that's one of the reasons why we think it's so important to have the Commission of Inquiry report released and to get to real justice and accountability issues.
2 months ago, IGAD and the international community set a deadline of March 5th for the two warring factions to broker a deal, but the fighting continues unabated, particularly in the oil-rich states of Upper Nile and Unity.
We have tried very hard to encourage IGAD to make the peace process inclusive. We've also encouraged them to travel to South Sudan, not just to Juba, but to actually listen to the population. We have, of course, encouraged gender diversity and representation. Same thing for for the delegations from both the government and the opposition.
President Kiir has announced that elections will not be held until 2017. Both sides have agreed to work on a transitional government. However, the opposition remains adamant they will not accept President Kiir in the transitional body. Esther Ewart, VOA News, Washington.
Well, now, across Africa, many lives are put in danger due to the proliferation of counterfeit drugs. One Ghanaian tech firm might just be the long-awaited solution to the problem. Africa 54's Paul Ndiho visited the firm, and he joins us now to tell us more about it. Paul?
Thanks, Vincent. The global counterfeit drug trade is a billion-dollar industry, and it's thriving in Africa, where markets are flooded with fake and poor drug quality drugs. Could a new Ghanaian mobile-based system known as Pedigree be a solution in the fight against counterfeit drugs? Well, I recently visited the tech farm in Ghana, and here is what I discovered. The World Health Organization estimates that more than 100,000 deaths a year in Africa are linked to the counterfeit drug trade, and that nearly 10% of the prescription drugs available in pharmacies and hospitals around the world are counterfeit. Well, thanks to Ghanaian social entrepreneur Bright Simmons, he has developed a cutting-edge mobile phone-based system known as Pedigree, which enables customers to check the authenticity and validity of their medication through instant messaging. Eugene Badu is head of corporate affairs and marketing at Pedigree. He says their application is empowering the general public against counterfeit products.
We have a system, the app, that empowers the consumer at the point of consumption to authenticate or confirm whether the product that they have just bought and are about to consume is genuine and is coming from the right producers, has gone through the right checks, and so on.
Drugs are protected through an Pedigree carry a short code that is revealed through scratching a specific area of the packaging. Users send this unique ID via text messaging on their phones, and they will immediately receive a message to verify the drug authenticity.
With this new system of authenticating the safety and originality of drugs, you're sure what you're buying, so we don't have reported cases of people suffering because they took in counterfeit drugs. So I'm sure what I'm buying.
Most exciting, perhaps, is that the system is now being used in more than 6 African countries and has been taken beyond Africa to India and other Asian countries.
You just need a mobile device to be able to access this kind of service. And that makes it easier if you look at the demographics and access to technology. If you look at that kind of distribution in Africa and other third worlds, where there's limited access to technology and so on.
Earlier this year, Pedigree entered into a partnership with GTP, makers of premium African prints, who are facing a huge challenge with counterfeiting. Stephen Kofi Badu is the company's marketing director.
These shops are still selling our designs, but not with our labels. Somebody else has taken those designs and put their labels on them. Some have even gone further to put not just their label, they take our designs and put our own labels on it. So that makes it even more serious than it used to be. So we're losing market shares, we're losing money, we're losing margins. We are really struggling.
Badu believes that counterfeiting kills innovation, industries, and destroys the economy.
We want to encourage consumers that always look out for the genuine thing. It might cost you slightly more, but you are better off buying a genuine product.
WHO says the lack of proper monitoring of imported drugs in many parts of Africa is allowing counterfeit criminals to cash in on a continent that is already battling other serious issues such as disease and poverty. By the way, I should add that Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana has adopted the Pedigree initiative through its new Preventer program, making Pedigree solution an industry-wide standard. In my next report, I will take you to Kumasi, Ghana, where a young entrepreneur and founder of Horseman Shoes is making his mark in the footwear manufacturing industry. Back to you, Vince.
Well, great reporting there, Paul. It's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. Well, the stars come out with over-the-top red carpet looks. We'll be right back.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines. In Djibouti, Secretary of State John Kerry announces $68 million in new U.S. aid to Yemen. In Nigeria, Boko Haram hostages rescued by the Nigerian army recover from their ordeal at a refugee camp in the city of Yola. In South Africa, police fires rubber bullets to disperse protesters in Soweto angry about electricity prices.
There is only one.
Finally, in Senegal, the UN says that Guinea and Sierra Leone have recorded weekly Ebola infections in single figure for the first time since the peak of the epidemic. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
I wanted to present music and a side of American culture that is most important to me, that is a part of who I am. They're going to get some incredible performances. That's one of the things I love, bringing these artists in so you can get to see them do what they do. It's soul music, and that's what music is. It's that which comes from the soul.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. Now, famous faces barely there, fashion and outfit drama for days. The annual Met Gala raises funds and awareness for the Metropolitan Museum of Art's Costume Institute. But more importantly, it generates as much fashion buzz as the Oscars or Golden Globes, thanks to the attendees' elaborate wardrobes. Kim Kardashian and Jennifer Lopez got to tongues working with their daring, nearly nude, sparkly, one-of-a-kind creations. 2015 will be remembered as the year Met Gala attendees dared to go bare. Well, next up, is this the future of grocery shopping? Well, the idea of this food district of the future is a collaboration between MIT's Sensible City Lab, the co-op grocery chain, and Italian design firm. Well, it's one of the attractions at the Milan Expo 2015. The food district allows visitors to understand how the food chain will work in the future. Now, the designers envision the supermarkets of the future transformed into places of exchange like Airbnbs for produce. Well, and finally, the sports world is down a power couple. Now, golfer Tiger Woods and Olympic downhill skier Lindsey Vonn have split. Both celebrities confirmed the breakup via social media. Tiger and Lindsey had been dating for nearly 3 years when the split was announced. Tiger and Lindsey were in complete harmony in their separate announcements, citing busy lives and times they will always cherish. Sunday's breakup announcement happened on the 9-year anniversary of the death of Tiger's father, Earl. The golf champion described the past few days as brutal, and that is what is trending today. Well, that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching. From all of us here in Washington, have a good night.
Music is something that brings people together.
Music educates, it motivates, it's a bridge.
Music. Ali.
On
VOA.
I am Shaka Sali, host and senior editor of VOA's international calling talk show, Straight Talk Africa. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent.
We are able to touch on things that are important to people on an everyday basis. Hello and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. In a lively half hour, news, sports, health, lifestyle information, comments from our viewers. Africa 54, the best for Africa, about Africa. Join us only on VOA.